Hey everyone. When I was a child, the village I grew up in had overhead power line and telephone wires. One night there was a thunderstorm, and when we all woke up, the telephone wasn't working anymore. It had just died. Our internet was also out because the little dial-up modem adapter had blown. But I also had a PC in my room, which was the family computer hand-me-down, and this had also stopped working. Now, maybe switching out the PSU would have fixed things, but I was only a kid, so my parents claimed on the insurance to get a new telephone and also a PC. Score! But nowadays, of course, we have these surge protection strips. They're meant to stop electrical surges from taking out our valuable electronics. You can also buy a UPS device which contains backup power to keep your equipment running even during a blackout. Finally, you can also buy surge protectors for your Ethernet cables. How do these all work, and do you need all of them? Well, let's take a look. Okay, so first I wanted to cover surge protectors. When explaining these, sometimes people say, if your home gets hit by lightning, loads of power will surge into your house, and these devices will stop your TV and PC from getting nuked. But that's not actually true. A simple £10 surge protector strip can't really block a massive lightning strike into your house. There'd be so much excess power that a device like this couldn't magically make all of that excess power disappear. But thankfully, it's very, very unlikely that your home will get directly hit by lightning. What is more likely is that some power lines or equipment miles away get hit, and then a higher than average surge of power travels into your house, and this is the real risk. And this is exactly what surge protectors help to protect against. You simply plug your TV, PC and any other expensive electronic equipment into these, and they'll then protect your home from power surges. Some companies like Belkin also are so confident that they work that they offer to pay you £60,000 or whatever if your equipment gets damaged. There are a bunch of T&Cs, of course, which I'll cover later on. It's often just common sense, in my opinion, to buy surge protectors for your expensive equipment. I use them for pretty much all of my gadgets, including my network switches and routers. Surge protectors don't just help against faraway lightning strikes either. When part of the nearby electrical grid goes down, another nearby supply station will kick in to supply power to homes and businesses on behalf of the other one. But this process can cause voltage fluctuations, meaning the households either see a voltage drop and then their lights flicker, or they experience voltage spikes. This is known as a brownout, and surge protectors can really help here. I should point out though, the surge protector strips don't last forever. Some surge protectors come with a 3-year warranty, for example, meaning that there's actually no guarantee that they'll last beyond this point. Now you might be saying, yes, but Belkin offers lifetime warranties. But guess what? Their website makes clear that this actually means, drumroll please, 5 years, so not a lifetime at all. Many surge protectors have a little light on them that shows whether the surge protection feature is still working or not. Make sure you check this regularly. When I moved house last year, I was packing everything, of course, and I realised that actually half of all my surge protectors weren't actually offering protection anymore. Whoops. This wasn't just laziness on my part though. Honest, it's actually really easy to forget about this, especially because many surge protectors are actually hidden underneath a table or things like that. Next up, I want to discuss UPSs. These are basically the result of a power strip mating with a rechargeable battery. The UPS stands for Uninterruptible Power Supply. You often find these in server racks to keep mission-critical servers online even if there's a blackout or brownout. But you can also buy consumer-friendly UPSs like my APC one, and they contain a number of power points that I can actually plug my electronic devices into. Then if the power goes out for any reason, my plugged-in devices will still work because the UPS switches over to battery power. They're really awesome actually, and while they aren't super cheap, they are worth exploring if you handle professional workloads on your PC or if you have a NAS or a home lab setup. I actually use my UPS in my networking corner so that my Eero router, 2 network switches and Synology NAS still work even when the power is out. Because my MercurySys switch powers 4 PoE CCTV cameras, I still get security camera coverage for my home even if there's a complete blackout, which is pretty sweet. Of course, there is a downside here. The UPS doesn't have an infinite battery, so I can't just keep this all powered for many hours. I'll probably get around half an hour of backup power here before the battery goes out. So if you are considering buying a UPS, do double check the battery size and make sure that it doesn't just give 30 seconds of coverage, for example. Of course, the devices you plug into your UPS matter here. My computer uses over 100 watts of power even when idle, whereas my entire networking corner uses less than 50 watts of power. So my networking area that you can't see, but like you point into like a madman, will run for 2 or 3 times longer on UPS backup power than my PC will. Some UPSs are just dumb, and they switch between wall power and battery power without your plugged-in devices having any clue about this. But some UPSs actually come with a data lead or USB you can plug into your NAS or your PC. It's always worth buying a UPS with this feature, IMHO, I'm so cool. Because you can then configure your device to turn off after a certain amount of time on battery power. For example, my Synology NAS will recognize when there's a power outage, and I can then specify the grace literally turns off after 2 minutes or whatever. This then allows my NAS to shut down in a nice way that protects all my data, but also saves power because it won't constantly be draining 25 watts of energy until the UPS's battery just dies. The other benefit of setting a grace period is if you have a 2-second brownout. For example, the plugged-in device will just keep running. After all, a UPS will quickly switch over to battery power, and then it'll just automatically switch back over to mains AC power when it's available. Simple. Windows supports a UPS too. You just need to plug your PC or laptop into the UPS device and then plug the UPS's data cable into your computer's USB port. Your computer will then basically appear as a laptop, with a battery icon appearing and various battery saving settings available to you. When my UPS is drawing mains power as normal, Windows will show the same icon as a laptop that's plugged in. But when there's a blackout, or I simply turn the power off at the wall to test things out, then Windows will show the battery discharging icon. If I then go into the Windows settings, I can see exactly how much battery power is left, and it estimates around 25 minutes, which isn't too bad considering that this is a fairly power-hungry 12-core PC. I can actually configure various power-saving options within the Windows settings too. For example, putting the PC into sleep mode after a set amount of time, which will then extend the UPS's battery life. So that's all awesome, right? Well, yes, it is, but before you run out and buy a UPS, double check that it actually contains a changeable battery. That's because the battery inside a UPS often lasts for 3 to 6 years, but some UPSs don't actually allow you to change the battery, which sucks. Effectively, you're committing to e-waste every few years if you buy one of those. Thankfully, my APC UPS does allow me to change the battery, which is neat, but I need to be careful where I actually buy it because the official APC store is quite expensive for battery replacements. So that covers off the basics of surge protectors and UPSs, so I want to loop back to a point I've touched on a few times. The warranty that some surge protectors actually offer. For example, Belkin surge protectors mention that they financially cover any damage to your connected devices. In other words, if your PC blows up when connected to a Belkin surge protector, they will pay for the repair or replacement. That's pretty sweet, but always double check the T&Cs. For example, Belkin's lifetime warranty is only 5 years from the date of purchase. So even if you use the product for 3 months, stuck it in a drawer for 4 years, and then use it for another year, and then had an issue, you wouldn't actually be covered on the warranty, even though you actually used it for less than a year and a half. Equally, there are a bunch of exemptions here. If Belkin judges that your device got zapped through a telephone, coaxial, or Ethernet cable, then you won't be covered, which kind of makes sense, of course, but it does make you wonder how easy it would be for any company, not necessarily Belkin, to get out of paying a warranty claim by saying, "Oops, there's some electrical damage near the Ethernet area of the motherboard." Equally, if you use a surge protector in conjunction with other devices like an extension cord, a UPS, or grounding devices, then you won't be covered. This raises an interesting point, because if you plan to buy a UPS and then protect this by plugging it into a surge protector, you'll probably still void your warranty. In general, you shouldn't really mix a UPS and a surge protector actually. Double check the manual, but you should probably plug them into separate wall outlets. Due to all the exemptions in the T&Cs, some people claim the surge protectors and UPSs are a bit of a scam and they don't really work. And certainly, it's hard for any of us to actually prove that they work. I mean, we're not all super experienced electrical engineers who can accurately test out these devices. But if we do try and test them somehow, then we void the warranty on the devices. So we kind of have to trust that these protection measures work and then hope for the best. Part of me worries that if my plugged-in devices do get fried, I wouldn't then be able to claim on the warranty because the surge protection company would find a random loophole to wiggle their way out of things. But to be honest, I still like the protection that they offer. My UPS and surge protectors are all from reputable companies, so I just try and trust that I'm protecting my equipment as best as I possibly can. Having said all that, there is a guy called Weston who has made it their life's mission to tell everyone for over a decade that these devices don't work and are a gigantic waste of time and money. I don't really know why they're so virulent about this, but all the light research they've done on surge protectors and UPSs shows that they actually work out well enough to add some level of protection to my home's electrical equipment, which is good enough for me, to be honest. At this point, you might be wondering if you can get a PSU for your computer that contains a UPS. That would sort of make sense, right? Well, unfortunately, a standard ATX format PSU would be too small to contain an effective rechargeable battery. I mean, just look at the size of this UPS. However, there are some nifty products out there like the 401B1 that fits inside your computer case's 5¼ slot where the optical drives used to be, and it then connects via USB. That's actually a pretty great idea because you do then get built-in UPS protection for your computer, but without any extra space in your room being taken up. Before wrapping up this video, I wanted to circle back to something I mentioned in the intro, protecting your Ethernet cables. Since your internet comes from cables that are outside your house, and then you run Ethernet to your PC or wherever, isn't this all at risk of lightning strikes? And if not, why do I personally use Ubiquiti Ethernet surge protectors in my home and my garage? Well, in general, you do not need to surge protect your Ethernet cables. The internet cabinet in your neighbourhood that either your ISP or your country's broadband provider controls will generally handle surge protection for you. The only real exception here is if you run internet cables outdoors from your house, then you should look at buying an Ethernet surge protector. I discussed this in a lot more detail in another video, but I've actually run some Cat7 cables from my house to my detached garage. So I went and purchased some Ubiquiti surge protectors and attached a ground wire to an earth rod that I piled into the ground. This works well for adding some extra protection to my home networking equipment, but just like electrical surge protectors, I probably won't be protected against a massive direct lightning strike. And that wraps up this video. I hope you found it useful. If you did, please click the thumbs up button and please subscribe to see more videos like this. Thanks for watching.